Thank you, Dr. Weaver, for that warm introduction. Good morning to the Johnson family, the LBJ School faculty and staff, family and friends, and most importantly, the LBJ School class of 2021. Graduates, we made it. I am so honored to have been chosen as our class speaker to recount our experience in the culmination of our graduate school journey as we gather with our friends, family, and loved ones today. When I found out that I had been nominated as our class speaker, I immediately thought of two things. One, my love and admiration for our class. I have felt so loved and supported by all. Our vision of what the world could be kept me motivated and true to course. When I felt like I couldn't make it, I knew I could lean on you all. My second thought was my late father, Robert. You see, he is the reason I am here today. As a Ghanaian immigrant, he was brave enough to dream a better future for his wife and kids. That dream brought him to Salt Lake City, Utah. It was there in the early 90s that my family began their pursuit of the American dream. I came into the picture shortly after and have been giving them a run for their money ever since. I say my father is the reason that I am here today, not only because he immigrated from Ghana, but because he instilled in me the value of community, integrity, and the importance of civic engagement. As a child, I remember our home was open to anyone that needed a meal or a place to stay free of charge, despite how little money we had. I met new aunties and uncles every other week as my father helped others navigate their immigrant experience. Another favorite memory of mine dates back to 2004. My dad had been watching the Bush and Kerry race pretty intensively. He made it pretty clear who he was going to vote for, and he was really excited to take me to the polls and show me the importance of voting. I remember his sense of excitement and pride to be fulfilling his American duty. That excitement did, in fact, dwindle towards the end of the night, but you get the point. He wanted me from a young age to know that community and the act of showing up for something we believed in were far more important. Now, this never made sense to me until I was a junior at the University of Utah, and I realized everything I was passionate about had an intersection with politics or policy. From lobbying state legislators about breastfeeding legislation to fighting for more financial and social resources for underrepresented students, there was some sort of administrative policy or politics involved. Without realizing it, my 2004 Election Day memory exposed me to seeing policy as a change agent. I don't know what issue motivated my father, but I know he saw voting and ultimately policy as one avenue to address it. 12 years later, I too saw policy as a way to tackle the problems I saw right in front of me. And that brought me here to the LBJ School, where I know I would be given the tools to succeed and one day shape policy myself. I know many of us can identify with either being children of immigrants, first-generation students, losing someone important along the way, battling through tough socioeconomic challenges, or even navigating personal health issues. Living the reality of any one of those or more of one of those situations has shaped us to be where we are, but has not defined us. We began practicing resiliency long before we chose the LBJ School. Our paths to grad school had different beginnings. Some of us were tired of working and thought grad school would be a great stepping stone. Some of us never got tired of school and always longed to be back. And some of us, me, had moms that expected us to be doctors, but were able to bargain and settle with a master's degree to shape policy. Regardless of how our paths began, our paths intersected at the LBJ School, where our passion to change the world around us cultivated an environment of excitement, ambition, and excellence. Our inherent need to solve challenging societal issues like climate change, immigration policy, food insecurity, carceral reform, emerging tech policy, and even space policy led us to embark on the journey of learning. We quickly grew accustomed to our new environment as we would stand in line outside the O's between class between class breaks to grab a coffee or a breakfast burrito to help us get through microeconomics, or if we were lucky enough, your favorite analytical foundations course with Pat Wong. We would attend every lunch hour to gain free food and some knowledge, of course, but most importantly, we began the process of getting to know one another. Little did we know that that bonding process would look nothing like how it started. The COVID-19 pandemic completely changed our graduate school experience. In a matter of 2 weeks, our faculty adapted their syllabi and turned their in-person classes into a Zoom environment. It took a couple of "you're muted" and "we can't see your screens" as we navigated the transition together. We had so many questions about what grad school would look like now that we had not been together. We could not imagine that we would be here a year later wearing our caps and gowns and masks at home. To be frank, I don't think many of us thought that we would be able to continue our education virtually. Learning online is extremely difficult. Many of us were Zoom fatigued, balancing duties of home and work, and some even coping with the fact that someone close to them was battling or could have had COVID. We were experiencing all of this while taking 4 classes a week and searching for internships. While we managed to find our space in our homes for our DIY offices, this reality was hard to take in, but we took it as it was and made the best of it. After 6 weeks of remote learning, we found ourselves at the end of our first year. We ended the school year with follies and were ready to enjoy summer. We were halfway through the beginning of our year of where we are today when another tragedy occurred. George Floyd was murdered. This was nothing new. This was another killing of an unarmed Black individual in America. Months prior, we had Ahmaud and Breonna. It took the height of a pandemic and a 9-minute and 27-second video to shake the world. And naturally, as the changemakers we demanded better in our community, from our school, and from ourselves. We challenged our administration to do better and to be better. We challenged faculty to teach and present the ideas and narratives of underrepresented scholars. We held each other accountable for our own biases while still giving each other grace to learn and grow in our own journeys of becoming anti-racist. We met virtually over the summer to put together reports and student experience, to document the student experience and to prepare our meetings for administration, faculty committees, and other UT working groups to create change that we wanted to see. We cultivated an environment where diversity was appreciated, inclusion was at the forefront, and equity was necessary to ensure that we left the LBJ School a better place than when we first walked in. Our efforts led to securing a fellowship for underrepresented students, gaining diversity and civic engagement fellows, an alumni mentoring program for students and alumni of color, more student engagement with administration, and new DEI curriculum during orientation, and so much more. We did all of this while being outside these 4 very walls. That alone is worthy of celebration. I give this speech at a time where our nation is divided. We've seen an increase in AAPI hate crimes, gun violence, an attack on our democracy, and tactics rooted in racism, ageism, and sexism to diminish our liberties. I understand that we've made progress by electing our first woman of color vice president and securing the most diverse presidential cabinet that we've ever seen, but our Congress, state legislatures, city councils, and school boards do not represent many of our racial, gender, and socioeconomic identities. Despite our ability to coexist, we each carry different identities that shape how we view the world. We have been able to treat each other with respect and dignity, regardless of affiliation. And I ask that we continue to do that as we enter the world of public affairs. Our resiliency in the midst of adversity and the tools that we have gained from our time at the LBJ School is what puts us in the perfect position to enter into professions of public service, research, policy analysis, and much more. Now, more than ever, our public affairs experience is needed in all sectors, all around the world. We are embarking on emerging policy arenas such as tech policy, space policy, climate change, and we're still battling with our pre-existing but more urgent policy areas such as health policy, racial and social justice, and voting rights. We are now equipped with the technical and professional experience that we need to make a difference in these areas that we are passionate about. Not to mention, our resiliency and perseverance sets us apart as we have endured a lot together. All of this has made us stronger. As we transition into the next phase of our careers, we may face moments where we feel defeated. In those moments, remember that you graduated in the middle of a pandemic, racial reckoning, and hopefully a once-in-a-lifetime Texas snowstorm. That should bring things back into perspective. In all seriousness, I am forever changed because I went through this experience with you all. We are a bunch of dedicated, hardworking, passionate people who want to leave a mark on this world. We studied, prepared, and endured sleepless nights to be here today because we wanted better for our families, communities, friends, future families, and even people we don't know. I know each and every one of us will go on to do amazing things. As we do that, I ask one thing of us. I ask that we continue to challenge ourselves to be better, to lean into difficult conversations, to continue to learn and to grow, to dedicate our lives to speaking up against injustice and speaking truth to power, to take the same energy we had to change our school into boardrooms, committee hearings, campaign trails, city council, and wherever else our lives takes us. And to use policy in a way that shapes a more just and equitable society for Black, AAPI, Latinx, Indigenous, LGBTQIA, and every other underrepresented communities. I ask the same of the LBJ School. Continue to honor the legacy of our class and the classes before us by continuing to help make school a more inclusive and better place for each class to come. Finally, I did it, you did it, we did it. In 30 minutes, we can proudly call ourselves alumni of the Lyndon Baines Johnson School of Public Affairs. Our lives will forever be connected, and the status of incoming class will be elevated to the class of 2021 alumni. We are a part of a network of amazing resources and humans who are all on their journeys of changing the world. As we transition into this status, let's keep in touch with one another, faculty and staff. Let's volunteer our time to mentor and, dare I say, volunteer our money to support the next generation of LBJ students. Until then, I feel pretty confident in saying what we started here will change the world. I love you all. Hook 'em.